Hello there, welcome to lesson number 6 in our series on using FluidDesigner for 3D printing to create Objet. Today's lesson we're going to show you how you can use a Torus Knot Plus and combine it with a Nurbs Circle to create an unusual object. So if we start FluidDesigner up, if we go to Learning Projects Objet, and if we go to lesson 06, the Torus Knot, and just drag and drop that onto the workspace, this is the object that we're going to create. So it's actually a Torus knot, but it's got an unusual cross section to it, and we're going to create that cross section using a Nurbs Circle. Now, because of the complexity of this object, it is about 40 megabytes file size, so it may be that it takes a while to save this when we come towards the end of it, and when we check it in NetFab. So first of all, what we're going to do is add a curve, and we're going to add a Nurbs Circle, and the Nurbs Circle is going to be used to recreate the cross section of this finished Torus Knot Plus. If we just go to View and zoom to Selected, there's the Nurbs Circle. Now we're going to increase this size slightly. At the moment that's 1 millimeter, so 2 millimeters. We're going to double that, so we're going to change the radius to 2 millimeters by 2 millimeters. And if we just go to View and view this from the top now, the next thing we're going to do is, if we press the Tab key on the keyboard, we're going to Edit mode. What we're going to do is we're going to change the shape of this cross section. So instead of having a circle, first of all we're going to change it to a square section, and then we're going to pull a few bits, modify a few bits further than that. So if I click the right mouse button, at the moment all the control points are highlighted. There are only 4 control points around the outside. If I press A on the keyboard, that will deselect them. If I press A on the keyboard again, that will select all the control points. So with all the control points highlighted, if I click the right mouse button and select Subdivide, what this does, it places additional control points between the existing ones. So there weren't 4 originally, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 originally, and these ones here, these are new control points. So we've sort of squared it off a little bit. If we do that again, so right mouse button and Subdivide, you see it's even more square. That's the first part of modification of this that I'm going to do. Now I'm going to press the A key on the keyboard to deselect all of those again, and I'm going to go to the toolbar here, and I'm going to switch on the snap and switch on increment, and then I'm going to click on that control point there, and I'm going to move it up 1. So I'm just snapping it up 1, and similarly with the one at the bottom, and similarly with the one on the right, and the one on the left. So I've just created that unusual shape there, and that's actually going to be the cross section of the finished Torus knot. So we're going to wrap this around the Torus knot, and the whole cross section is going to be this shape. So we can come out of edit mode now, and we just leave that object there in the center of the screen. We're not going to change that anymore. As I say, that's going to be the cross section of the finished Torus knot. So what we want to do now is to add a Torus knot, and we do that by going to the menu, and it's you'll find it under Add Curve, and we're using the one called Torus Knot Plus. And by using a curve, we can make some additional changes to this object. So what are we going to do to this? Well, first of all, let's just zoom in and have a look at it. Okay, so that's the basic Torus knot shape. We're obviously going to make some changes to that. The resolution is 100. We're going to leave that. Now we're going to change the height to 50. Well, if I just change this slowly, you can see what's going to happen. The height is actually, well, if I enter in a value of 10 there, what the height does, it's the height above the grid is 10. So this total height will now be 20 if we look in the properties window. So this value Z is made up of 10 up and 10 down, so twice the height. Now we want a height of 50, so if we just enter in a value of 50 for the height, you'll see that Z, it's almost 100. So that's the effect of changing the height. Now we're going to enter a value of 50 for the scale. Well, let me just change the scale slowly and you see what happens. It widens out the object, and if I enter in a scale of 50, its effect on the object is actually to make X and Y 200 millimeters. So in other words, the diameter of this object is about 200 millimeters. So we've got a height of 100 millimeters or 10 centimeters, and we've got a diameter of this object of about 200 millimeters or 20 centimeters. So this value X and Y are 4 times the scale. So the Z value is twice the height, the X and the Y are 4 times the scale. Now the next thing we want to change are the P and Q values. Well, as we change P and Q, the shape of the torus knot changes. Now we want a value of P of 10 and of Q of 17, and as you can see there's lots and lots of different shapes that you can come up with using this Torus Knot Plus just by changing P and Q. Okay. Now it is possible to change this bevel value down here, and that will actually add thickness to this object. So if I change the bevel, let me type in a value of 1, you can see that that adds thickness to the Torus Knot Plus, and that could be printed now in that format. But we're going to do something a little bit more unusual than that. We're going to make the cross section of this object the same as that item in the middle, the Nurbs Circle. So I'm going to type this back as 0.08 again. I don't want to apply my thickness there. What I want to do is, well, I can close down this toolbox panel here now, and if I go to the properties window, you'll see that in the properties window there is an icon which is a curve. Now this current object that we've got highlighted here, the Torus Knot Plus, is a curve. So if we click on that, if we change, and notice that the bevel depth here is 0.08, which is what we typed in the window over here. I mean, it was the original value. I changed it to 1 and then reset it. So this is the same value. But if we go to this box here, the bevel object, and if we select the Nurbs Circle, what we will do is we will wrap the Nurbs Circle shape, which we started off as a box, well, it started off as a circle, we changed it to a box shape, a cube shape, a square shape, sorry, and then we pulled out each of the 4 sides. So we have this unusual kind of star shape. So we've wrapped that around the Torus Knot Plus now. Okay, so that's in the properties panel. And to apply this modifier and confirm this shape, once we're happy with it, as usual, we go to Tools, Object Tools, and convert it to a mesh. So that's applied the modifier. So we haven't got a curve anymore, we've got a mesh, so there's no curve icon. And that's our Torus Knot Plus object with this unusual cross section. Now if we delete the original object by going to X on the keyboard and deleting it, and then select our object that we've made today's lesson, we can save this object. Now it is quite a large file size, so it may take a little bit of time. So if we go to File and as usual go to Save As, go up through the menu system and go to My Projects Objet, and if you save that as a Blender file, so it's 06 Torus Knot Plus as a Blender file. Now we can't print Blender files, so we do need to export this in a file format that's printable, so we're going to use the Wavefront OBJ file and export it to the desktop. Because we always need to go to Netfab Basic and check our meshes and make any corrections to them. And as you can see, this is taking a little bit of time because, as I said, this object is quite large. Hopefully it's not going to crash my computer. I should have paused the video before I did this. Come on. I'll just pause. Okay, now it has actually saved that now. I did pause the video for a short period there, so it has saved it, and as I said, the file size will be pretty large. So we now need to go to Netfab Basic. Let's hope this imports it a little bit quicker than that, than FluidDesigner saved it. So if we go to Project and Open, if we go to the desktop, it's 06 Torus Knot Plus we want to open, so I'll click Open that. As you can see, it's loading the object, and it is loading it relatively slowly. And oh dear, here we go. It will do it eventually. As I say, the file size is pretty large here, so that's why we've got the system hanging at the moment. But it should load the object, and we shouldn't really have any problems in Netfab Basic because of the way we've constructed this object. It's been done using mathematical equations for the Torus Knot Plus, and the Nurbs Circle, which we modified to this new cross section, that also should work okay. So as you can see, we haven't got a warning red triangle, but still we should always go to extras and repair the part. And okay, as you can see, it took a little bit of time there, not too long. And if we click update now, you can see there aren't any problems. There are no border edge problems, no orientations and no holes. But the reason that this is taking a lot of time to load is that there are 912,384 triangles in this object. But there aren't any issues with it, and that's because it's being built with mathematical equations. So we would still suggest you run automatic repair and execute it. That will triangulate the mesh. And we just have to wait for it to do that. It's just running it down at the bottom of the window here, so that's done it, I think. So if we just click update, that's okay. So click apply the repair and remove the old part, and again that'll take a little bit of time to do, but it's done it. Okay, so there were no issues with that. All Netfab has done is triangulated the mesh. So we have got quite a complicated object here with a lot of faces. But because of the way we've constructed it using the Torus Knot Plus function and the Nurbs function, it's worked fine. So all we need to do is to go to part and export the part as a Wavefront object. And as you can see, it's actually bigger than 40 meg. This is the original one was 51.7 megabytes. So we save this repaired one to the desktop, and that's the file that you would print. So that's just saving it to the desktop now. Okay, now I did pause the video there slightly while it saved it, and if we so it has been saved now. If I just go to project, and let's just assume that I'm going to open it up again. If I go to open, you'll see that the repaired file, it's 74.8 megabytes. Now that's actually a pretty large file size, and if you were trying to print it at a company like Shapeways, they wouldn't accept that file size. It's too big. So I'm just going to show you a quick way of actually reducing the file size. So if we go to FluidDesigner again, and if I just open up the properties window, at the top of the screen here it tells us how many faces there are on this object. Now this is actually the one before it went to Netfab. So in Netfab there should be 900,000 faces, but the principle's the same. I just haven't bothered to re-import it here. What we need to do is to reduce those number of faces, and we can do that by going to the modifiers, and if we go to add modifier, the modifier that we're looking for is the Decimate modifier, and at the moment the ratio is 1, and that gives us 456,000 faces and gave us 70 megabytes. So we need to reduce this ratio, and I would suggest for something like 0.7 and enter. That will reduce the face count, and it will take a little bit of time to do this. As you can see, the system's hanging again. Okay, we'll take a little bit of time to do this. And what FluidDesigner is doing is it's combining some adjacent faces together into one. So it's taking two faces and joining them together and creating it as one. So you can see the face count has gone down now. Now when you reduce the face count, you'll reduce the file size. And the amount that you've got to do this will just depend upon the final file size of the object and what the limitations are at the company that's going to print the object for you. Okay, so we've got a lot of faces here because of the way we've constructed this. I didn't expect that we were going to go up to 70 megabytes. When I did it previously, it was only about 40. But that's what's happened. But there is this solution. Now you do have to apply this solution. You do have to go to Tools, Object Tools, and convert it to a mesh to confirm this change. Then go back to Netfab Basic again and run it through Netfab, and then look at the file size. Okay, so that's it. That's the end of this lesson. Thank you.